Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to uncover the hidden, highly calculated machinery of autocracies, and we're using some incredibly fascinating data to do it. Most of us probably think of a dictatorship as this super simple system, right? One guy at the top barks orders, and everyone else just falls in line out of pure fear. But as we'll see today, running a whole country with absolute power, it's actually a massive logistical nightmare. So let's look at the academic research to reveal exactly how autocrats really maintain their grip on power. Okay, let's dive right into this counterintuitive question that kind of challenges everything we assume about absolute power. Over the last few decades, a huge percentage of dictatorships worldwide have held regular elections. But why? Think about it. If you already control the military, the police, and the entire government apparatus, and you're literally going to rig the results anyway, why bother spending the money and time to hold an election at all? It seems completely illogical, right? Well, this perfectly highlights the ultimate illusion of choice. In a democracy, elections are essentially a job interview, right? The citizens are the hiring managers. But in a dictatorship, an election serves a totally different purpose. It's a highly calculated mechanism for regime survival. The vote isn't about deciding who leads the country. It's entirely about making absolutely sure the current leader never has to leave. We're going to unmask these tactics step by step through what we can call the autocrat's playbook, the dictator's dilemma, the party machine, the actual purpose of fake elections, the redistribution paradox, and finally, buying regime survival. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the dictator's dilemma, and those very real logistical nightmares. So, when a dictator seizes power, their immediate focus is usually keeping their inner circle and the military happy. But once that's locked down, they hit a brick wall. They actually have to govern a country. A dictator is essentially blind. They just don't have the trained, loyal manpower to directly watch over local officials scattered across hundreds of towns and provinces. I mean, how do you know if a local mayor is actually building the roads you sent money for, or if they're just pocketing the cash? How do you know if a massive crisis, like a famine, is brewing in some remote region? Local officials who might secretly sabotage policies or hide catastrophic failures are a huge threat to the regime's survival. Because, let's be real, officials who are terrified of retribution are almost always going to hide the truth. As historian Peter Greeter noted about East Germany, local officials were so scared of being blamed for bad news that they'd just send back these glowing, completely fake reports to the capital. And this dynamic, it's led to some of the most horrific consequences in human history. Take the massive unreported famines during China's Great Leap Forward, where local cadres simply refused to report the appalling, catastrophic failures happening right in front of them. To solve this massive information shortfall, autocrats rely on Play 1, Section 2, the party machine, HR for patronage. We often think ruling parties in these regimes are just groups of deeply ideological zealots. But in reality, dictators use mass parties not really to debate big ideas, but to routinize the exchange of material benefits for the loyalty and service of their citizens. It actually functions way more like a massive human resources department for patronage. It distributes jobs, favors, and resources to build this vast network of people whose own personal well-being depends entirely on the regime staying in power. By strictly controlling the allocation of everything from basic infrastructure to government jobs, the party forces compliance. Consider the choreography of massive public demonstrations. When you see hundreds of thousands of people weeping or cheering in a place like North Korea, it's not to trick you into thinking the dictator is genuinely loved. No, it is a highly organized, heavily costly signal of strength. It shows rivals and regular citizens alike that the regime has the sheer organizational muscle to mobilize massive crowds. It's a warning, basically, deterring anyone from even thinking about starting an uprising. Which brings us to Play 2, Section 3, the purpose of fake elections, the performance review. Okay, so if the party is the HR department, the election is the performance review. In political science, this is called fire alarm monitoring. Now, what's incredibly interesting here is that these choice-free elections aren't about the dictator's popularity at all. They're a direct audit of the local officials. Look, it's way too expensive for a dictator to send inspectors to every single village. But if voter turnout in a specific district is abysmally low, or if the ruling party's vote share suddenly drops, that triggers a literal fire alarm in the capital. It tells the dictator, hey, the local official in this district is lazy, corrupt, or incompetent, and the people are getting dangerously angry. So here's how the cycle actually plays out on the ground. An ambitious local official absolutely has to prove their worth. To avoid triggering that fire alarm, they must deliver high turnout. And how do they pull that off? They can't just rely on fear.
they have to actually hand out resources. During election time, you'll see these officials scrambling to fix potholes, hand out food, and distribute bribes just to ensure people physically show up to the polls. Basically, the fake election forces local elites to do their jobs and spread some wealth to the grassroots level.
And the data perfectly confirms this political business cycle. We see a clear, measurable spike in central government spending during authoritarian election years. Even in elections where there is literally zero opposition allowed on the ballot, spending goes up. Local officials are aggressively pulling down resources from the capital to buy turnout in their districts because they are completely terrified of losing their prestigious party positions if the polling stations sit empty. This reveals a stunning economic reality, leading us to Play 3. Section 4, the redistribution paradox.
The common myth out there is that dictators just hoard all the wealth in Swiss bank accounts while their populations starve. And sure, while some certainly do, like the immiserating dictatorships of the past, the academic data on modern institutionalized autocracies paints a radically different picture when it comes to wealth redistribution.
Theoretical models show us something absolutely fascinating. In a democracy, redistribution generally shifts wealth toward the median voter. But dictatorships, they actually engage in highly aggressive redistributive activity, sometimes way more than democracies. But, and this is a big but, they definitely don't do it out of fairness. They target massive redistribution strictly to the groups whose support is vital for their survival, whether that's the military, the urban elite, or the rural party cadres.
The regime uses these tangible benefits, like schools, roads, or whatever else, to fundamentally buy compliance. Because a dictator lacks constitutional legitimacy, they literally have to purchase their right to rule every single day. We even see this in the hard data. For example, in places like Egypt under Mubarak, researchers documented that the actual daily calorie consumption of average citizens rose specifically during election campaigns. I mean, wow. The regime hands out campaign time calories to a population that has no other voice, basically ensuring they stay quiet and compliant.
Which leads us to our final section. Section 5, Buying Regime Survival, the Cost of Compliance. So how does all this forced distribution actually affect the people living under these regimes? Well, the data reveals something incredibly complex. Because local officials are forced to secure turnout and because they pull down government money to buy that turnout, uncompetitive electoral dictatorships actually see higher health spending and lower child mortality than autocracies without elections. By forcing local cadres to sweat for their jobs every few years, more resources genuinely do trickle down to the poorest citizens, actually moving the needle on major health outcomes. But here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. When you see an authoritarian regime paving roads, building schools, or reporting higher health spending, it is not a sign of benevolence. Actually, scratch that. It's not even close. These benefits are simply byproducts of a vast, incredibly cynical system designed entirely to monitor local officials, crush dissent, and keep the ruling elite securely in power.
It leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to end this explainer. We constantly hold up the ballot box as the ultimate symbol of human freedom. But when the machinery of democracy is hijacked, used to monitor bureaucratic agents and bribe citizens for compliance, the voter isn't really making a choice at all, are they? They're just a cog in the autocrat's survival engine. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this data. Keep questioning what you see, and we'll catch you in the next explainer.